guys, my name's Edgar. I'm Brittany's husband, the snoozy mama. So today I'm gonna go ahead and teach you guys how to remove the base and change out the motor steel bearings. So let's go ahead and get to it. Go ahead and aim right here real quick. All right guys, so we're gonna go ahead and remove the base. The only reason why you're going to need to remove the base is if your bearings right here are only removable from the bottom. So a lot of the 2018s and older models are going to be removed from the bottom versus the top. So I don't know if you can notice here, but you'll see these two little gaps right here. So if you see those two gaps, that means that the bearing is going to be removed from the top in order for you to replace this O-ring. So to remove it from the top, real simple, you're just going to go ahead and pull it up. However, the 2018 models and older, they don't have that feature. So you're going to have to remove it from the bottom of the base. And in order to do that, you have to remove the whole base. Another reason why you need to remove the base is if you need to change out your steel bearings on your motor. So one way to test this is you're going to go ahead and manually turn your motor shaft. If you feel a lot of resistance when you're trying to turn it, or if you feel like there's no movement whatsoever, then it's an indicator that you're going to have to change out the steel bearings of your motor. I'm going to go over how to change those steel bearings, and then also how to change the O-rings on the 2018 and older models. So real quick, I did want to mention that it's normal to have this feel a little resistance. But if you feel a lot of resistance to the point where it's like very difficult to turn this little motor shaft, then that's for sure going to be an indicator that you're going to have to change out the bearings, the steel bearings. So let's go ahead and start by showing you how to remove this base. Okay, so you're going to see that there's 6 screws that you need to remove. So there's one here, one here, one here, 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 and here. So those are the screws that you're going to remove in order for you to remove the base. So the tools that I will be using to remove the base is a 7mm socket. I like to use a little drill gun just to help with the process and the efficiency. The other tool that I will also use is a 4mm hex driver. And you're going to also need some small little pliers and some wire cutters. Okay, you're not going to be cutting any wires. You're just going to be cutting the zip ties that attach onto some of the wires. So let's go ahead and start removing these screws. So again, you're going to go ahead and remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws. Okay, you're going to go ahead and place your hex screwdriver underneath the Snoo. You're going to feel where the screw is underneath. So I'll show you where the screws are on the bottom of the Snoo by just simply flipping it. So you're going to use your hex screwdriver and you're going to go ahead and place them right underneath here. So there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, it's like a little triangle pretty much on each side right here. So it's really hard to do it like this with the Snoo on the side. So I'm just flipping the Snoo over just to show you where you're going to place your screwdriver in. Okay. So the best way to do it is to grab your hex screwdriver. You're going to go underneath. You're going to put your hand underneath the Snoo, and you're going to go ahead and feel where that screw is, and then go ahead and lock in your hex screw driver. Then you're going to grab your drill and simply unscrew the nut that is above it. Once you unscrew that nut, you can go ahead and just place it right there. And you just simply push with your finger down, and you're going to catch the screw from underneath. And this is what it looks like after you remove it from the bottom. So you want to make sure that you save all of this hardware. The order that the hardware is going to get reapplied is you're going to put the rubber washer first, then you're going to go ahead and put the metal washer, and then the lock washer, which is that little one, and then you're going to go ahead and put the nut right above it, all of that. Okay. So we'll do the same with all remaining 5 screws. Okay, so after you removed all 6 screws, just go ahead and grab all your hardware and make sure that you store it so you don't lose it. All right, so the next step you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and cut this zip tie right here. And that's going to release these wires so that when you lift your base, you have a little more room to work with. I do recommend taking your whole netting off if you're going to take the base off, because it's just so much easier to work with. You can simply just slide your hand right through here, versus if you had a netting right here, it's going to be more difficult to get in there. Since you're breaking your Snoo down to the base, it's always better to just take the netting off. We do have a video on how to deep clean your Snoo and take the netting off. You might as well just take it off and deep clean the netting while your netting is soaking. You can just go ahead and fix your bearings, your steel bearings, or even change out the O-rings of your Snoo. So when you lift your base, you're going to lift just very gently. You're going to only lift on this side where the motherboard is. You don't want to lift too hard because you could rip a wire off the motherboard, and then you're going to have even more issues. So just lift very gently, just so that you could take a peek under there. Once you can lift high enough to where you can see the motherboard somewhat a little more clearly, you're going to go ahead and get your wire cutters, and you're going to cut this zip tie, which is going to be right there. This zip tie simply connects or holds down the magnet that's attached to the wire. So it's not a big deal if you just cut that zip tie off. Sorry. So after you cut your zip tie off, you're going to have a little more room to open up the base. So you'll kind of expose the motherboard a little more, but you still want to be careful because there are some wires that are still attached. So the first wire that you're going to go ahead and remove is going to be this white one right here. You're going to go ahead and just flip this black wire over so you have more room to remove it. And then you're going to squeeze this and pull up. Simple as that. So now you're exposing it even more. The next wire you're going to want to remove is going to be this 2-prong wire. I recommend getting some little pliers for this one because a lot of times this one will remove completely with the base. So you want to just grab the top section of this wire and just kind of wiggle it out. Once you get some of it out, you can probably just use your hand and just pinch. Make sure you don't pull from the wire itself. You want to pull from the actual connector. So you're just going to very gently just like grab from the connector and then comes right off just like that. So what I was saying was, like, a lot of times when some people that will pull this wire out, this is the wire that always has issues because it's so tiny. But this black base right here comes off with the connector, which is this part right here. So this part will be attached to this black base and it comes off completely. And then you're exposing the 2 prongs that are coming out of the motherboard. If that happens, it's not a huge deal. You can always put that little black connector back, but just make sure that it's put back and oriented the correct way. So now that we'll go ahead and remove the next wire, which is going to be this purple one. And same thing, you're just going to pull not from the wire, but from this little base right here, the dark purple portion of it. Just like that. So now you even have more room to work with. As you pull the wires, you can start lifting the base up higher and higher, as you can see. And the next wire that you're going to pull is going to be this one, which is your motor wire. And just like that, you have more room. You want to be careful with these 2 little resistors because those can break also. So the last wire that you're going to pull is this orange one. And just like that, you pulled all the wires that you need to remove the base. So the other thing that you want to do is you want to go ahead and fish these wires down because you don't want to pull the base before that. Otherwise, you could potentially rip these wires off. So go ahead and just push them down through the holes. And just like that, you now have your whole base just removed. All right, so after you remove your base, you can go ahead and set it on your table. This is a 2018 model that I just am using for an example. But as you can see how the bearings, they're not able to be removed from the top. I'll show you a 2021 model real quick just to show you the comparison and difference. If you do not have those grooves right here, then they do not remove from the top. So basically, you're going to have to remove these bearings from the bottom in order for you to change out the O-rings. So real simple, all you're going to do now that your base is removed, you're just going to flip it upside down, just like that. You're going to get a little drill gun with a Phillips screwdriver, and you're just going to remove all of these screws. So you're just going to be 1, 2 in every single one. It's a little tedious, but that's the only way to get into these 2018 and under models. And you're gonna want to, I like to just set it off to the side just how I removed it so that I know to put it back just like this. In case for whatever reason you forget to do that, just remember that the orientation is gonna be this way. The way I remember is there's a hexagon shape right here. That hexagon shape is gonna be facing downwards. So that hexagon shape is going to be facing downwards, just like this. And then there's a circle right here where it does not have the hexagon shape. That's going to be facing up. So real simple, that's how you're going to put it back. So once after you remove that, you're going to go ahead and grab your pliers, and then you're just going to simply grab from where the plastic portion is. Do not grab from where the steel bearing is, because you could bend the steel bearing and damage it. You're going to grab right where the plastic portion is. So grab where the plastic is and simply pull up. So after you remove it, you can go ahead and take your O-ring off, and I would clean these out also with a paper towel in order for you to just, get a little smoother, because they do get a little greasy. But yeah, you can clean these out with a paper towel and just replace your O-ring. You're going to get your new set of O-rings. So after you clean out your bearing, you're going to go ahead and put your new O-ring on. So you see how there's like a little square right there, and then that's a little square as well. You're going to want to go ahead and make sure that it aligns just like this. And you're going to make sure that it sits flat on each side. Then you're going to grab your bracket, and then just make sure that the orientation of the bracket is the right way. One way that I check is if you see a hexagon looking shape, that goes on the bottom, and the circle shape goes on the top. So real quick, hexagon, it's going to go right in the bottom, just like that. And then you're going to grab your screw, put it in, grab your other screw, put it in, and you're going to go ahead and screw it back in. So after you screw your screws in, I like to use a screwdriver and manually check to make sure that they are nice and tight. You don't want to over tighten it because you will strip the screw and then you'll have more issues. So just a little tug just to make sure that they're nice and tight. And I always double check, make sure that they're turning okay. And then you'll go ahead and repeat that to all 7 O-rings. So you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that pretty much is it. And then once you change out those O-rings, you'll go ahead and flip it back over. And then we'll go over how to put your base back on. All right, so once you have your base out, we're gonna go ahead and take the motor off. I'll go ahead and show you how to do that real quick. So real simple, you're gonna, instead of taking this whole piece off, we're just gonna slide this motor shaft down through this hole, and then we're just gonna pull the motor out. I recommend having like a solid like work table because you will need some room for this. So what I like to do is I'll go ahead and grab my motor wire. So there's two wires here that are coming from this little hole. They have a two-prong wire which attaches to your thermal fuse, and then you have a three-prong wire which attaches to your motor. So the only one that you're going to want to pull is going to be your three-prong wire. So real quick, you're going to notice here that you have a little magnet attached to it. You can leave that magnet or even take it off if you need to. Some Snoos will have two magnets. Some will have one up here, a little higher up, and then one down here. If you, for whatever reason, you have two magnets and you have one up here, you will have to remove the magnet that's up here, which is a little higher. Because what you're going to do is you're going to thread this wire through this hole, and you're going to pull the motor from the bottom, and that way you have room to work. So if you need to remove this little magnet, it's real simple. Right here, you're going to just simply lift up and then lift up right here as well. And then it just kind of pops out. I recommend marking with a red Sharpie where these wires will be turning, so that way you kind of know where to wrap it around. But it's real simple. All it is just a wrapped wire around this magnet. So all you're going to do is you're going to unwrap it just like that, and then just save the magnet. So we'll go ahead and start up here, and you're going to lift the base up just very gently with one hand. And with your other hand, you're going to go from underneath, and you're going to just push. You're going to push the both wires up. As you can see, they start threading through, or out, I should say. You start pushing those wires up, and then you just keep pushing all the way up. And then you make sure that you grab only the wire that you're going to be working with, which is this three-prong wire. Okay, the two-prong wire, you don't need to mess around with that. Just this three-prong one. So just pull it up just high, just enough to where you can thread this motor out a little more. So that should be roughly how much you need to thread out. And then you're going to get your screwdriver, and you're going to remove 4 screws. So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you're going to go ahead and push onto the motor from the bottom. Go ahead and grab your screws, set them off to the side. And these screws are really tiny, so just be careful not to lose them. So now that you have your 4 screws out, then you're going to go ahead and catch the motor with your hand on the bottom, and you're just going to push onto this shaft, just like that. So now that, since you have your wire threaded out, now you can go ahead and pull your motor out from the bottom. And you only need just about this much room to work with. You could pull a little more wire, but you don't want to pull the whole wire out because it is a little difficult to put the wire back in through that hole. So this is about how much you need to work with here. So as you can see, you have about 5 inches worth of wire to work with. So now you're going to set your base off to the side, and then this is going to be your new workstation. So the next set of tools that you're going to use is going to be a 1.5 millimeter hex. You're going to use a little punch tool, a little punch out tool, a little hammer, and then a vise. I like to use this one because you don't really need a huge vise. You just need something small. This was super cheap. I bought it for like 20 bucks on Amazon. I'll put the link down below in the description for all the tools that I use for this project. But basically, you're going to go ahead and grab your 1.5 hex tool, and you'll see that right here, you're going to see like 2 little holes. So there's one right there, and then when you turn this, you'll see another one right there. So there's a little lock screw in there that is a 1.5 millimeter hex. So you're going to go ahead and use your hex tool, kind of get a nice little seal or a nice little lock on there, and then you're simply going to go ahead and do maybe like 2 full turns. Sometimes it's a little hard because they put glue on there, and then you're going to go on the other side, and you're going to go ahead and turn and just do like about 2 turns. You don't want to take the whole screw out because these screws are really tiny and you could potentially lose it. So once you go ahead and loosen up those 2 screws, you're going to go ahead and punch out the motor shaft, which is this one right here. So you're just going to adjust your vise, give yourself a big enough gap to punch it out. Set it right there. And I like to use this little tool to help punch out the shaft. So you see this little silver dot, that's where you're going to punch it out through. So you're just going to simply put it right in the center, and then you're going to do some hard hits. And just like that, it comes right off. So you'll see this is your motor shaft right here. It looks like the bearing, the silver bearing, came out with it. This doesn't happen where the bearing comes out with the motor shaft. That bearing should be right in here. If it does happen, real simple, you can go ahead and adjust your vise. And then you're just going to punch it out. And you might need your little tool, punch out tool. Make sure it's centered so that you don't damage the bearing, because if you damage the bearing, it's very difficult to get that motor shaft out of the bearing. You'll have to pretty much break the whole bearing apart. Okay, and just like that, you got your bearing out. And this is your motor shaft. So you're going to go ahead and save that. Just put that off to the side for a little bit. And now we're going to go ahead and remove this piece, which is a magnetic piece. So it's kind of difficult to remove. It's a little challenging sometimes because it's a really hard magnet, but if you kind of twist and turn, there we go. Okay. So yeah, so it's magnetic, so you will have a little hard time to remove it. But this is what it looks like. So this is your other bearing that you will need to remove. Now that you have one bearing removed right here, this one is the one that was supposed to be there when we removed the shaft. I'll go ahead and put it back on there so that I can show you how to remove it, just in case it doesn't come out with the motor shaft. So that's how it typically comes out after you remove this little motor shaft. You'll see the bearing, which will be right there. I'll show you how to remove that bearing. So real simple, you're gonna go ahead and remove this part right here, which is really hard magnets. You'll see a bunch of little magnets in there. I would suggest to put this piece into a Ziploc bag to avoid, to avoid any debris from being attached to this magnet, because this is where the turning happens. And if you have any debris in there, you're going to hear a lot of grinding noises. So what I like to do is I just grab a Ziploc bag and I just put it in there. So that way you don't have to worry about any little small magnetic debris from attaching onto those magnets. And you just set that off to the side. This part doesn't have any magnets, but they are a little sensitive, these little wires. So what I recommend is taking out this bottom O-ring first. So real simple, you got to make sure that you have a wide enough gap so that the bearing falls out. You're going to get your little punch out tool. Now you don't want to go straight because you're not going to hit the bearing on the bottom. You're going to want to angle it off to the side a little bit, just like this. And then just hit it with the hammer until your bearing falls out. So once your bearing's out, you're going to go ahead and grab your bearing, set it off to the side. And then now that's basically what it looks like after you remove your bearing. And now you have to remove this one right here. So in order to do that, I like to close this up just a little bit to give you a little more surface area. So this part's the part where you kind of need to be a little more gentle and not hammer it too hard, because you think about it, when you're hammering this part right here is also getting damaged with this. I've done this hundreds of times and I've never actually damaged it, but that is one thing that kind of worries me a little bit. So just be somewhat gentle, very little hammers. You want to hammer all angles. So once your bearing is out, go ahead and grab it. And now you have a hole there and a hole there. I recommend just changing out both. Sometimes only one of them is rusted or doesn't work very well. You can always test it by just simply pinching the center and twisting it. It looks like this is the one that's a little rusted. You can kind of feel the resistance. So after you remove your two bearings, you're going to want to get your new set of bearings. We do sell these on our website at snoozymama.com, or you can simply click on the link in the description below. Depending on the year model of your Snoo, you're going to have a different size. So we do sell our kit with two different sizes. Some motor shafts are a little thicker than others. So depending on how thick your motor shaft is, it's going to determine on which size you're going to use. So in order to test which size you're going to need, you simply are going to remove the bearings from your repair kit. Now, kind of hard to show here, but as you can see, one inner diameter is smaller than the other one. So here you'll see the large inner diameter, and here you'll see the smaller inner diameter. But in order for you to test which size is the correct size for you, you simply grab your motor shaft, and you're going to go ahead and grab one of the larger diameters. I would start with the larger one first, and you're going to go ahead and just put it through the hole. If it goes in smoothly, you see how there's a gap right there? If it goes in smoothly, then that's not the right size. You want the one that does not go in smoothly. That's why I always say test the larger one first, because if you put this one, the smaller one, in first, you'll notice that it's kind of hard for you to take out. You'll feel some resistance, and you don't want to break it because then you'll have to order another set. So just real simple, you're going to go ahead and test the large one in first, see if that fits. This one does not fit. And then go ahead and grab your smaller one, smaller inner diameter, and you'll see that it does fit on there. So you can go ahead and take it out. You can even grab the other one just to test, and it does fit. You don't want to push it all the way down because it's going to be hard to take it back out. So that pretty much tells us that we need the smaller inner diameter. So these larger ones, you can just go ahead and put those off to the side or toss them. But these two are the ones that you're going to need. So real simple, you're just going to go ahead and grab your new bearings. So set your old ones off to the side. Make sure you don't mix them with your new ones, because sometimes they are hard to tell which ones are the new ones or the old ones. If for whatever reason you do mix it, the best way is to go ahead and just manually test it, and you'll see which one is going to be smoother versus the harder one. All right, so now you're going to go ahead and grab your motor. You're going to you're going to clamp down your vise all the way. And then you're going to go ahead and put your smaller one in first, which is this one. You want to just kind of put it in manually with your hand first, just to try to make it flat. And then all you're going to do is you're just going to use the little ball section of your hammer, because if you use this side, you could potentially damage some of the wires on the motor. So all you're going to do is just hit it straight, very gently. And as you're hitting, you're kind of going in a circle. So you're not just hitting right in the center, you're kind of going a little on the corners of the bearing. And then just feel with your finger to see if there's any ledges. If you feel, it should be smooth all across. If you feel a little bit on the corners, you just have to kind of hammer in that section a little more. There we go. And that's it. So now you're going to grab your magnet portion of the motor from the Ziploc bag, And make sure that you make sure that you clean up any debris from here, any metal pieces, because your magnet will attract those. So once you grab your little magnet section, you can even clean it out a little bit on the inside. Sometimes it gets really dirty in there. Just do your best to try to get as much debris out of there as possible. You don't want any debris in there. And then now you're just going to go ahead and seal this. So very gently, the magnet's going to want to, like, grab it really quick. So you have to kind of hold on to it really tight and then just kind of let go. There we go. So now we're going to do the other side right here. And then once it's like that, you're going to go ahead and use your hammer. And then for this one, you can use the flat portion of it. And there's just very gentle taps. And you want to make sure that the edges are flush. This one looks like it's good. So then now you're going to go ahead and grab your motor shaft. And remember, it's going to go this way. So you don't want to put it in like this. You want to put it in like this. Because remember, we punched out the shaft through that little hole. So real simple. All you're going to do is you're just going to hit it straight. And then just double check. So it looks like you still have a little bit more left. And make sure that you're in good. There's no gaps anywhere. Okay. And then now you're going to grab your 1.5 millimeter hex and then tighten that little screw that's in there. Make sure you get a nice little tight seal. And do the same on the other side. Okay, so real simple to test it. You're just going to hold on to the top portion of the motor, and then you're going to go ahead and just turn it. Make sure that it turns really nice and smooth, and this one turns real smooth. Perfect. And that's it. So now we're going to put it back together. All right, so now we're going to go ahead and put the motor back onto the base. So in order to do that, you're just going to go ahead and pull on that 3-prong wire. And you want to pull very gently because you don't want to damage the thermal fuse. Okay, so once it's in there, now you're going to go ahead and grab, with one hand you're holding on the bottom of the base, you're going to hold the motor up. And then with the other hand, you're going to simply just go ahead and put your screws in. Once you have 2 screws in, I like to do the zigzag version. So I put one here, and then I'll go ahead and put the other 2. You can kind of let go from the bottom, and now you have a second hand. You want to be careful not to over tighten these because you don't want to strip that screw. Okay, so now you're going to have to pull that excess wire that you have here. So you're simply going to go ahead and lift your base up. Make sure you only pull on the 3-prong wire. And you only want to do the 3-prong wire first. Make sure you don't do both wires at the same time because then they will get all tangled up. So now that you have your 3-prong wire in, you can pull your 2-prong wire. And there you go. You got yourself a fixed motor. So now we're going to go over how to put the base back on. Okay, so real simple. You're just going to go ahead and line up the end of the magnet where the marker is. And do 1 turn. Just like that. Then you're going to center the wires. And then you're just going to go ahead and shut it. And if you need to get more slack, you can just kind of push the wire through and then fish it out a little bit. There we go. So that's basically what it's going to look like, just like that. Just remember to wrap the wire just 1 time. And then now you're going to go ahead and grab your zip tie. Which you're going to attach to this bottom little bracket right there. One of the tricks is to go ahead and put the zip tie in first, and then you're going to go ahead and put this magnet right over it. And once it's in, you're pretty much set. Now you're going to use your wire cutters to snip the last tail end. And then once again, you'll see the marker right there. It's going to go right where that little hook is. So you're just going to go ahead and fish it right through. And you want to line up where the red marker is. And then you also want to fish through your other 2-prong wire, which is going to go right in through there. Just like that. And then same thing, you're going to go ahead and right where the marker is, you're going to go ahead and put it right through the little hook right there. And this one is a little different because you're going to have to basically put the 2-prong wire in first, and then you put the 3-prong wire. But the trick is that you're going to go ahead and you're going to do a loop. So you're going to go ahead and basically turn it. And you're going to do just a loop on the bottom, and then go ahead and reattach it in through there. And I'll show you the loop, how it looks on the bottom. You see how I looped it around? And that basically keeps it intact. And this is what it should look like. So now you're going to go ahead and grab another zip tie. And see this little hole right here? You're going to go ahead and put the zip tie in there. And right where the markers are, that's where you're going to tie it. And you want to tie it, you don't want to tie it all the way, just enough to give you a little slack still, because you're going to need that slack when you reinstall it. And then again, you're going to go ahead and put another zip tie right here, but we'll go ahead and do that after we install the base onto the Snoo. And before I forget, there's actually one more magnet that you're going to have to wrap around. Same thing, right where the marker is. You're going to go ahead and put it right where the marker is. Then you're going to wrap it, just one wrap, remember. And make sure that your wires are centered so you don't pinch them. So it should look like that before you close it. And then go ahead and close until it clamps together. And make sure that you're still loose, so make sure you're not clamped in there, or you don't have the wire jammed into the clamp. And now you're ready to reinstall. So now we're going to go over how to put the base back on. So before you guys put the base back onto the Snoo, you want to make sure that you have all these black pieces attached. So see how there's this one's missing, and then there's this one that's missing, and there's this one that's missing. So a lot of times they get stuck underneath your base. So you simply just pull them off and then just put them back on. And the way that you put them back on is it has these little wings, and you just fit the wings right in there. Just like that. So now that you have 6 of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other thing too that you want to do to start preparing is you're going to want to separate your wires. So you're going to put one wire on this side, and then these two wires, which is the L or the left, is going to be on this side, and then the right is going to be on that side. Okay. The other thing too that you want to check is you want to make sure that you have all your brackets in place. A lot of times these little brackets will come off when you're pulling the wire. So you just want to verify that they're actually intact and in the prongs. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. Majority of the time, this one right here is the one that always comes off because it's the hardest to pull out. So a lot of times if it does come off, it's not a big problem. All you got to do is just align the prongs and just make sure that they're straight, and then you just push it back in, and you make sure that the gap is going to be facing outward, and it'll even tell you on the motherboard too which way the gap will face. And then the other thing too you want to make sure is that these fuses are still intact and that they're not broken. And that's pretty much it. So now let's go ahead and put the baseboard. Now you're going to go ahead and grab your base, and the motor is always going to go towards where the motherboard is. So you're going to go ahead and line up this one and this one onto these two black bases. So you're just going to simply guide it with your finger. And you can check by just pressing down gently, make sure you have some resistance. And now you're going to go ahead and use the other hand to lift your Snoo up. Just how we took the wires out, you're going to go ahead and do the reverse method. So first thing you want to do is you're going to go ahead and grab your safety wire, which is the one that threads right through the base, and that's going to be off on the corner. You're just going to feel with your finger where that hole is, and you're going to just simply thread it right through. Now you're going to grab the other safety wire, which is going to be this red one, and then you will grab your speaker wire, which is the 2-prong wire. So I like to just grab the speaker wire first. Thread it through, and then grab your other safety wire. And the safety wire is for the safety clips, just in case you were wondering. What do I mean by the safety wire? So now that you have all 3 clips threaded through, now you're going to go ahead and just keep your Snoo base just kind of tilted very lightly. You don't want to over tilt it, because then these wires that you just threaded through will fall out. So these wires that you just threaded through will fall out if you tilt it over too much. Okay, so you just want to keep it just very lightly tilted, just enough so that you could see the motherboard. So one of the things that I probably should have done before, before fishing the wires on top, is basically put this zip tie onto this little bracket right there. That's basically just going to tie down the it's going to tie down the little magnet. So one of the tricks that you can go right here. One of the tricks that I do to easily put the little zip ties in is you're just going to hold the end, and then you're going to go ahead and just twirl around your tool and just kind of tug it a little bit, and it kind of creates a little pigtail. So that just kind of helps it so that you can easily, put it in through the, like kind of fish it in through the little bracket. So once you fish it through, you're just going to kind of leave it there because you'll go ahead and zip it up after you install some of these wires. So let's go ahead and start installing these wires. So first one you're going to do is the one with the most slack, which is going to be the purple one. And then you're going to want to install the one with the magnet, which is going to be this black one, this 3-prong black bracket at the very end of the motherboard. And then you're going to go ahead and put this 2-prong wire onto this other black one. And then you're going to put the white wire until it clips. So you want to make sure that when you do put these wires in, that they're arranged correctly. So I made the mistake of putting this one on this side of this wire. So you want to put it on the other side of the wire because it needs to clamp onto this. But that's okay, you can still fix it. So now that you have all those wires in, you're going to want to go ahead and put in the orange wire, which is going to be on the other side of the motherboard. So this wire, real simple, same way. You're just going to go ahead and put it right in through there. And then just push down. And make sure you go down all the way, because if you don't, it's not going to make a connection and you're going to have to disassemble it all. So you're going to put this little orange wire back into its bracket. So now you're kind of limited, as you can tell. The more wires you plug into the motherboard, the less space you have in there. Now all you got to do is just screw these, put these screws back together. You got 6 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And real simple, you're just going to go ahead and grab your screw. So you're going to go ahead and get your screw. You're going to go ahead and go underneath the Snoo and just kind of feel for where the hole is. And then you're going to go ahead and align these the best you can, as close as possible to the hole. One of the things I like to use is these little tweezers. So you're going to go ahead and align your washers. And then as you're pushing through, you can go ahead and just kind of align it or center it the best you can. And then you can even use your finger. There we go. So now that it's now that the screw is pushed through, now you're just going to go ahead and grab your nut and then just screw it in. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to push the screw up with your finger from underneath, and then with your hand you're going to go ahead and tighten it with the 7mm socket. So all you're going to do is you're going to push up, and then you're just going to tighten it manually. You don't want to use the screwdriver or your drill gun because you want to make sure that the base gets tightened evenly. So what you're going to do is you're going to crisscross. So you're going to tighten this one, for example, then you're going to tighten this one, and then you're going to crisscross over to this one, crisscross to this one, go to here, and then you're going to go here. That way your base gets tightened evenly, and it's not tightened only on one side more than the other, because then it's going to be uneven. So let's go ahead and flip the Snoo over now, and we'll go ahead and do the other side. So again, you're going to grab your screw, you're going to go underneath the Snoo, find where the hole is, and you're going to go up, just push up with your finger, and then you can align these accordingly, and just use your finger to push the rest down. And then go ahead and grab your nut, and you're going to go ahead and screw it in manually with your fingers. And then go ahead and use your 7mm socket, and then just as you're pushing with your finger up, you're going to go ahead and tighten this with your socket. And then that's basically what it should look like. And then once we get all the screws in, then we'll go ahead and use the drill gun to tighten them all together very evenly. So at this point, now that we went across, now we're going to go crisscross over to this section. So you're going to flip your Snoo over again, or turn your Snoo around. And it is a little bit of a pain, but this is the recommended way that I recommend to do it to prevent your Snoo base from being tightened unevenly or being crooked, which will cause issues in the long run. So these are a little harder to assemble because you don't have the same amount of space that you do here. Here you're very limited. So I recommend just taking out your pieces. So you're going to take your nut out, and then you're going to just then you're going to take your washer out, and then you're going to push the screw through, and then use your tweezers to push down. Then you're going to get your lock washer, and then get your nut, put it right on top. Then you're going to get your socket, and remember, as you're pushing up with your finger on the bottom, you're also screwing this nut in. And then you're just going to screw in manually. No need to tighten too tight, just somewhat. And now we'll go ahead and go on the other side. We'll go ahead and do this side now. Okay, so you're going to just kind of guide your washers in, and then push down with your tweezers. You grab the lock wash, put it through there, grab the washer or the nut, put it in there, and then you're going to grab your socket, just manually turn it. And then now we can go ahead and do the other side. Okay, so now you're simply going to go ahead and connect your socket onto your drill. I recommend using this Black & Decker drill because it's not as powerful, so you're less likely to break the plastic on the Snoo. The other tool that you're going to use is a size 4mm hex, which is going to go on the bottom of the Snoo. So you're going to go ahead and grab your hex, feel for the screw with your finger, and then go ahead and just guide it with the tool. So you're going to see how I'm locked in just by giving it a little wiggle. And at this point, you're going to go ahead and tighten it. And you don't want to over tighten because these screws will break. I have had that happen before for me more than once. Luckily, I have spare parts, which I could go ahead and replace. But just make sure you don't tighten it too tight because they will break. And then at this point, you're going to go ahead and tighten this one. Then you're going to go ahead and tighten this one and crisscross again for all 6 screws. Cut.
Are we still cut?
Yeah, there's no need to talk because I'm just trying to screw these back in. Okay, so now that you screwed in your base, just verify that it's nice and tight. And now at this point, you're going to go ahead and put the second base, and just be careful with these wires when you fish them through because they are very brittle, especially this particular year of the Snoo, anything 2018 and under. They're very prone to breaking in this little section right here. So just be very careful not to break it right where the inside of the sheath is because it is brittle. We do sell the clips repair kit as well, just in case you do happen to break it. No big deal. Just go to our website. You can go ahead and order them there. And, you know, it's a quick fix. You don't need to solder anything, and you won't need to strip any wires. Just go to our website, www.snoozymama.com, to purchase these. Yeah, we'll go ahead and put the second base on there, and we'll get going.